There we go. So, hello everyone. My name is Angie. I'm the program manager for the Business Center Guelph-Wellington. Today we are talking with Simone. I always have all my notes ready and then I forget half of them whenever I start talking. And she will be helping us slow growing. That's it, slow growing. Who will be talking to us today about gaining confidence in our food business financials, which is something that I know is pretty prominent in a lot of people's lives. Before we get going, just a reminder, if you are watching this live on Facebook or if you are going to be watching this as a recording later on, please feel free to still comment, send messages, or you can email me success@guelphbusiness.com if you have any questions following the session. So we're always here to help you. This is Small Business Month, so we are in full celebration mode with our Bridges to Better Business program. We have tons of workshops this month, so please take a look at that because that's guelphbusiness.com. Check out our events page to see what's coming up so that you don't miss all the cool stuff with all our amazing presenters. So for today, Simone, I will pass this over to you. Let me know. I'll be here monitoring all the chats everywhere. So if you need anything, let me know as well.
Okay. Thanks, Angie. And yeah, hi everyone. All right, all good? Okay.
You're perfect.
Okay. Yeah, it's great to be here with all of you on, I guess, the Friday before the Thanksgiving weekend. I'll start with a brief introduction, but I also really do like to know, for those that are joining and on the live, like who's in the room, so I can kind of tailor the conversation to you. And yeah, I'll go first, and then I would love to hear from you as well. So you can see my screen. Angie, maybe if you could say yep.
You're good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so yeah, a little bit about me. I spent the past kind of 5 years or so in food business consulting. So working with kind of companies, food businesses, large and small, close to 100 probably at this point. And while I was doing that, my partner, we met in Guelph, started her own food business out of university, The Conscious Kitchen. And so I was, working with food companies and also kind of seeing the inside of what it took to start and run a business. And I mean, from both of those experiences combined, just really understood, I mean, how much work it takes running a small business and like the heart and soul that goes into it. And obviously just from all of that experience, really want to support and help food and farm businesses because know how hard it is and how important small business is for our local food economy. So I left that job and moved into, more of like a hands-on role in The Conscious Kitchen. And I also started my own bookkeeping and financial coaching kind of side business to work more directly with small business owners. Because the financial aspect, the analytical aspect is something I really enjoy. And I feel that, with all of the work that goes into it, if you're not able to pay yourself, take vacation and do things that you enjoy, pay your people, do all of those good things, it doesn't feel worth it. And often, like we see, it leads to burnout. So I do feel like the financial part is so important to like running a good, sustainable, equitable business. So that's kind of the angle I take, when I'm working with business owners. So I'm going to stop sharing for a bit, and I'm wondering, again, I see there's Agata online, Akela. I know you said you're calling in. If you're open to, turning off your mics and just telling me a bit about you, your business, and kind of why you're here, what you're interested in learning. That'd be great. Agata, if you're open to it, I'd love to hear from you.
All right, I'll jump in. Hi everyone. I'm I actually run a reusable food packaging business. It's a social venture startup. There are two of us. And so I hope this still applies, but I think since it's a startup, we work closely with food businesses, specifically at this stage, coffee roasters and tea retailers, and we want to branch out to other types of food retailers as well. So yeah, I'm keen to hear, because generally I'm hearing that margins are thin in a food business, and hearing that a bit from some of our clients too. So interested in the insights for today.
Interesting. So I guess if I heard you right, yeah, interested. I mean, you're starting to kind of work with these food businesses, like, yeah, tight margins. Maybe you're interested in like kind of the perspective of like what financially a food business is working with, and like how it can make sense, like how it can make sense like in your business model.
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges for us is like how the pricing, which is, I think, a challenge for many businesses, how there is a minimum we need to price in order to survive, but also we're very conscious that we can't ask for too much because it will be a burden for our clients and they simply won't do it. So it's been hard finding the balance.
Sure. Yeah. Do you mind sharing, like, are you still at the stage you're not sharing the name of the business, or are you able to share the name?
We can share, yeah. So there is Subtext Coffee Roasters. They are in the Junction in Toronto. There is CRISPR, who are actually in the same building as Subtext, and they are a zero-waste vegan meal kit service. We also work with Bumpy, and they are a tea house and a game board game place in also downtown Toronto or midtown.
Yeah. Okay, great. And your business name?
Packed. Oh yeah, I didn't write that. It's Packed. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
And I'll definitely hopefully can touch on a little bit of that. Definitely like the margin conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll pass it on to whoever wants to speak next.
Not a problem. I'll just let we had a few more people join in. So just so you know, we are live streaming this on Facebook. If you're not feeling comfortable shouting it out loud, feel free to add it into the chat and I can read them through for you as well. But we'd love to hear about what your business is and how Simone can help us with understanding the financial structures of food-based businesses.
Yeah. Again, for those that just joined, I guess briefly I introduced myself. Have basically co-owner of a vegan food business that started in Guelph. My partner founded that. Work with many food companies, and kind of my passion and interest is helping food companies like not get burnt out while starting their food business, and often that means paying yourself, paying your employees, like the financial side of things, so that you can continue to do what you do. So yeah, I'd really like to hear, since it's a relatively small group, it's always nice to hear a bit from you, your business, why you're here, what you're kind of hoping to take away, and then I'll tailor the conversation to that, so I'm not just talking at you. So I see, is it Hema?
Hi, Simone. Good evening. Good morning, everybody. Yes, so I'm Hema, and thank you for opportunity we are having for this kind of session. It's really helpful. I have been doing session with Angie for the Wednesdays one, so I really appreciate that. And I am doing my home baking business at the moment, and I think everybody knows that it has significantly gone up in the dairy and baking goods. So I really need a good structure. I know the costing that I am doing, but having making at the same time the profit, if I am not charging much as I should, just trying to keep the business going, and how firm I have to be at the same time trying to meet the customer's satisfaction and need at the same time. And I'm more focused toward, I do gluten-free, I do vegan, I do all kind of baked dessert and cake, cupcakes. And I have been privileged to be in the Greatest Baker Show as well, so which was great experience. So for me now, it's more trying to get customers in Guelph neighborhood, and at the same time I carry extensive experience as well, so my passion for baking, that's what it's about for me, the new flavors and freshness, and bake from scratch. That's the main goal focus here. So not it's custom made and all of that. So the time that goes into custom made cake, crafting, and so it's lots of time. I don't think I charge that much time or at all, that much to what customers really are looking. And I don't think they know how much as well it is. So I have been saying no to few of them because it's really not what they want. And so I don't know, lots of bargaining, but you see your work is there, but you feel sometimes not respect. I don't know, the skills you have, what you bring there is not balanced. There's no balance much. So I just want to be a bit more knowledgeable toward financing your business, your product, what you're providing. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Were you on the Great Canadian Baking Show?
Not Canadian. It was the during COVID time. They were doing one for the. It was a charity at the same time, but it was the Greatest Baker Show. So it was online, more virtual kind of. Yes. So the judges was all online. You have to showcase your work, your skills, all the project they will be giving you to work on the theme and all of that. Yes.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's awesome. Congrats, and I'll have to check
Thank
it out.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, to your point, like what I'm hearing is obviously, well, I'm sure you have an amazing product, and it's feeling like, the pricing side of things, like people aren't maybe willing to pay, or they like you're not sure what to price it at a point where you feel you can run a business and comfortable and respected, and the market can handle it, kind of thing.
Absolutely, yes.
So trying to figure out like how to price and how to be, just like confident and sure of, yes, I'm worth this. This is what it takes. This is what it costs, and find those people that are willing to pay for it.
Yes, that's exactly. And I work a lot with fresh ingredients. So I go to the farms. So everything is basically done from scratch. So all the products.
Wow. Okay.
And yes, so like apricot, I will be in Niagara making my own jam and all these things that will go in my cake. So everything is organic, but I am just focusing in that area that is the freshness and the real product when somebody's eating. And of course, I have customers who is coming all the way outside our city, from Pickering to London, everywhere, just because they love the product. So they are still coming for it. But I just want to feel more happy in our community and share what I have. Hopefully I will have a bakery sometimes open at a location. Yep. But the beginning, I think pricing really has been challenging, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much. And yeah, I can definitely touch on this. And then I'm also happy to like connect outside of this. My email will be included. Because we can always chat more. So I see Nicole, you've joined from Naki Farms. If you're able and willing to share a bit about yourself and what you're hoping to take from today. Oh, great. Okay. Attending today, mostly learned from what everyone else is asking. We're working towards development of some value-added products, and this is a whole new world for us at a commercial level. Okay.
If you didn't know, Noki Farms is located in the little mall in downtown Guelph, right downtown, and they sell mushrooms and microgreens and all this fun stuff that they grow right inside their location.
Yeah, I've definitely passed it. It looks like a very cool
Yeah.
operation. So
They're amazing business that came through some of our stuff, and they were winners for our Win the Space event the last year. So, so very exciting.
Yeah. Okay, value-added products, whole new world at a commercial level. So, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, and Akela, perfect. My business is named Anastasia's. We sell Caribbean rum cupcakes because our cakes have many ingredients and some are expensive. I'm not sure how to price them. We use rum and dried fruits, and I'm not sure how to calculate cost of goods. Okay, awesome. So there's lots of ingredients. Some are more expensive. So yeah, for you, it's really about how to price like individual items. Okay, great. This definitely, yeah, because again, I'm going to share my screen again. I'll go over kind of the agenda, but like I said, I really like to also just tailor it and make sure it's useful to everyone and their time. So we might dive into certain areas. I'm definitely hearing pricing, cost of goods sold. It kind of has been a trend across all. So let's, maybe focus on that more. But I can, I'll just give you a high level of kind of all the things I could potentially touch on, and then we can dive into what's most of value. So just to give you a little bit of context of where I'm based. So now I'm an hour and a half north of Guelph. I grew up, well, no, I didn't grow up. I spent 4 years in Guelph, working in Guelph, met my partner there, and then we moved an hour and a half north to what's known as Grey County. It's on Saugeen Ojibwe Nation territory. So we're like directly north. We still operate our business, like we do deliveries in Guelph every week. Guelph, Kitchener-Waterloo, and then we go up to Collingwood as well, which is an hour kind of north of us. So still serving those communities. And again, just a little bit about our business. We're vegan prepared meals delivered directly to people's doors. So our kitchen is situated on our farm property. We have 5 acres farm. Up here, like agricultural zoning, you can have your commercial kitchen on your property. So, went through all of public health and all of that to get it certified. It's basically in our walkout basement, all, up to code and standard, everything like that. And then, we have a refrigerated van where those 3 days a week, we're driving to our customers and delivering our products there. And they're basically buying like typically 3 or 5 meals for the week for either like single, like themselves, a couple, or a family. And it's all in reusable containers, like you can see on the screen there, and we kind of swap it out. So that's a little bit about our model. And I think pricing wise, why it works is because it's like that added convenience. We're kind of pricing around like $12.50 a meal. So it's like cheaper than what someone would pay to go to like a restaurant, let's say, but they are kind of paying a little bit for that value add and convenience. And again, we're dropping off like in large quantities, like 3 or 5 meals. So that also kind of makes things work there. And it's all vegan. That helps with margins, like kind of balance out every week. Our menu changes. There's 5 meals. So that helps us, when Celeste does the purchasing, she knows, okay, some ingredients are more expensive and some are not. So kind of, definitely pricing per menu item, and pricing certain things a little bit higher than others, but also just knowing that to a certain extent too, some things will kind of balance out. So I'm on the agenda here. So again, my original thought, but I'll move through some of these kind of quickly, is to go over a lot of common, I would say, questions or kind of maybe fears or around running a small business. So starting off like money personality, kind of how we relate to money, oftentimes our like socialized experience, that all factors into how we think and relate to money. So just briefly talk on that. Owner and employee salaries, like paying yourself is often a really hard thing as a business owner. Pricing, like we talked about, how do you set your price? Often what goes into that. Margins, so that's cost of goods sold. How do you think about margins? Then purchasing, cash flow, planning. We can talk about loans. Our business has used some loans. Sometimes those are hard in the first 2 years. So kind of maybe where to look for loans or grants. And then I'm a bookkeeper as well. So I can talk a little bit about like bookkeeping basics, like super basics. What do you need to know in like your first, year or so? Working with the Canada Revenue Agency, that can be a whole other scary thing, but it's actually not as scary as you think. And then perhaps even saving for taxes, because I know that, again, that's a question around your bookkeeping and running a business. Like, what do I need to save and set aside for taxes? So that's kind of the laundry list. But yeah, well, obviously we can dive and have a deeper conversation around the pricing and margins stuff. But yeah, I'll start off. So why I want and like to start with like money personality is because like financials are very emotional, right? And our upbringing, whether that's like familial, cultural, gender, all of this kind of changes how we affect you or affects how we relate to money. So what I found helpful just personally is kind of understanding my money personality. And a really good resource is the Financial Diet. They do a lot of good like blogs and podcasts around kind of your like personal money things, but they also touch on business. And they've listed like 6 money personality types. So it's just kind of how we relate to and think about money. So like for me in particular, to be honest, like I'm somewhat avoidant when it comes to money, believe it or not. Like I don't love looking at my own bank account, but knowing these things can help us maybe, just think about what we need to kind of put in place, the supports we need, whether that's kind of someone to check in with, someone to hold us accountable to, maybe knowledge, education. There's solutions, obviously, to kind of how we relate to money, and that can often help pay, in dividends just to our whole kind of like our business, our personal life, right? Is kind of looking into that and saying, okay, what do I need to do to like support myself? Because we all have this kind of baggage that we bring, right? And that's okay. So I would recommend checking out that source. And then the next thing I just want to touch on is the kind of salaries and paying yourself. Paying yourself and employees if you have them. So I first heard of the terms on Dragon's Den, kind of they distinguish between a lifestyle or an investor-driven business. And so, the dragons, they don't want to like invest in lifestyle businesses, right? They want to invest in these businesses that like scale. But I really like the term like a lifestyle business. If that's the route you want to go, if you're not interested in, scaling and selling your business off at like $1 million to dragons, because not all of us obviously want to do that. Framing it in terms of like my business is a lifestyle business. It's a business that I want to like support me and support my family, in my community, those around me. And for us, that means like kind of putting ourselves first and saying, if I don't, let's say, pay myself, or if I don't take breaks, eventually I'm not going to be able to do this for a long time. Or if I'm not going to be able to pay myself, maybe this is more of a hobby, or maybe this is more of a side hustle. So just thinking about, is my business a lifestyle, or is it like, do I want to scale? What does that really mean? Like, how is my business kind of serving me? And just kind of framing it in those contexts, I think can be really helpful and important questions to ask yourself. what goes with that is like knowing your personal income needs, maybe knowing some of your like just lifestyle needs, like, yeah, how much do you need to pay yourself? And then doing the business, you know, calculations. Okay, can my business support that? Those kinds of things. And again, I think not doing this can really lead to burnout. And yeah, so practically that might look at, yeah, just putting your salary, put your own salary. If you're doing budgeting or cash flows, try to put in, okay, what would I like to pay myself now? And obviously that can obviously go up over time. I'd say in your first year, it's pretty typical not to pay yourself as a business owner. But then kind of after that first year, be like, you know, is anything going to change? Is this sustainable? That kind of thing. But I do know, yeah, I would say most business owners are probably not paying themselves in the first year. But I'd say after that, if you're not paying yourself, you might want to look at, again, is your business serving you, right? And kind of, yeah, why are you doing this? Is this more of a hobby or side hustle? Just because your time, you know, you should value your time. Your time is really important. So yeah, I'll say that. And then if you are bringing on employees, we really believe in like a living wage. So there's the Ontario Living Wage Network is another good resource to look at. It's based on region and just making sure obviously that your employees can also afford to have a good quality of life as well. It's important. Okay, so get into pricing. So, okay, pricing is often, yeah, like we said, like it's like the next thing we think about, right? So start off, I guess by saying, well, pricing is probably, I'd say overall, like maybe like the hardest thing or the biggest question, right? When you're starting your business, so many things come up. I would say imposter syndrome is something that's like incredibly normal. So if you're feeling this, like we've already heard, if you're feeling, I feel uncomfortable asking for what I think is too much, what I've heard from one or two customers, you know, they say it's a lot, I feel uncomfortable, maybe you yourself wouldn't pay that. Again, it's important to like remember this is very normal feeling. I'd say it's even more common and socialized in like women, in like with people of color, and anyone that's like been marginalized. It is even more of a that barrier to really like knowing that, yes, you know, I have value here and like I am worth this and my product's worth this. So again, this is something, it's, yeah, important to like remind yourself of this. This is like a very common thing and there are ways to kind of work through it. So all of that, again, just is brought into your business. So yeah. Definitely you're not alone, and it's a good question to be asking. So with all that being said, I guess there's some things you can do, I guess practical things to maybe like reality check yourself. So obviously there's like the emotional side, but you know, some tangible things you can do. I'd say one is take a look at basically like other competitors. So maybe pick like three companies that maybe you admire, you are kind of in your area serving similar people, and yeah, communities, and look at what they're pricing and what they're charging. And again, look at a few, because you never know what's going on. Like maybe they're also pricing themselves too low, you never know, but like look at a few, yeah, see what they're pricing, because often that can be a helpful like reminder. Well, if they're charging that, and if they're successful, and if I really admire and respect them, you know, it's not unreasonable for me to price at that point as well. So doing that like competitor or peer comparison.
Just so you know, we have a hand raised. So
okay, I can't see. Yeah, please.
No worries. That's what I thought. Just so Agata, I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yes, you are.
Perfect. Thank you. If you want to say your question.
Yes, very quickly about the competition. So I feel like what we do is so niche that there is no direct competition. There is obviously indirect competition. So we do reusable packaging, and there is disposable packaging, and they are essentially our closest competition, but their offering obviously is quite different. And so in terms of pricing, we can't compete with them. And plastic packaging is normally much cheaper than reusables. So I'm wondering what one can do in a situation like that, whether there's still something around this comparison that we can pull, or we just move to a completely different strategy to set the price.
Well, this is a great question. So okay, I'll answer it again the best that I can, because I am somewhat familiar with like a number of different kind of packaging and that space. So, but obviously, take this with a grain of salt, and I'm not as deeply entrenched in like the packaging world. I would say though, okay, ignoring the facts, because like put yourself in your potential customer's mind, right? To them, I'd say you are single-use packaging. So it depends. If you're just trying to approach companies that are only looking to source reusable, right? Like someone like a CRISPR or someone like us, you could probably look for what would reusable containers cost. So for us, like, I can message you, I can give you the source of our packaging supplier. I think actually offhand it's like Websteront, I think. Anyways, we buy reusable packaging. There's not many suppliers that do this. It's from the States. So I think we're spending about $5 per container, right? And we're getting it back. So if you're just looking at companies that are already doing reusable, you'd want to compare to, okay, what are other reusable container companies doing? I know there's not many, but that's what they're comparing you to. If you're trying to make this more mainstream, I think you can't ignore the fact that they are comparing you to their current single-use packaging. Yeah. And so that does have to go into at least thinking, right? Just thinking about, again, if like right now they're paying, 10 cents, this is what we're charging. In your sales pitch value proposition, it's got to address that, and there's got to be a reason why they would pay for that. And then maybe also think, if you're going above and beyond just single-use, like if you're going above and beyond packaging, what else are you offering, and how can you compare yourself to that the customer? I think you're always going to have competitors. I think you have to figure out like who your competitors are. Yeah. Right.
And I was going to jump in. There has been a giant movement towards reusable packaging, and there are companies that have it where it's barcoded now, where they don't have to drop it off at the one place, or they can drop it off somewhere else. There's lots of different things. That's all fairly new. I have a heavy background in the food industry as well, and in packaging. So it's one of those, there are options. You should check out what's going on. Vancouver tends to be the front facing for a lot of these places. And then there's a bunch in the States, but they're translating across. So we've seen a large growth in this industry, even in Ontario. So it's one of those things that your competitor analysis might have to keep being redone every couple of months, because you're going to have new people coming into that space, because it's currently on the front of mind right now is things like reusable packaging, biodegradable packaging, economically sourced packaging, ecologically sourced packaging. In Guelph, they have the big circular economy and sustainability. So these are all things that are really popular. So it's really keeping that finger on the pulse and seeing all the new stuff that's happening and how you can take advantage of it as well. Because as being forefront, you're already existing, you already have a foot in the door. So you already have that, like, look at, we have people, and that's going to be on that competitive analysis. I can share a link for putting together a competitive analysis and SWOT templates as well. So I'll throw those into the link in a second, but that's my 2 cents.
Okay, super. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. And then another helpful tool to use when you're pricing is looking at, what internally, like looking within your business and what your margins need to be to afford, let's say, your rent, or afford XYZ. So kind of, rather than looking like, so you want to look externally, okay, what are others doing? And then also, like, what do I kind of need to price myself at in order to cover my cost of ingredients, cover all my overhead, pay myself, and all of that. And you kind of want to do both and make perhaps some projections to see, do I have enough time in the day? Do I have enough, storage space? Do I have, like, just to see, at this price, can my business work? So doing some of those projections are really helpful as well. And then I guess I'll just mention it because I've talked to some companies where, they've priced their product at a certain point, maybe 1 year ago, some even like 10 years ago, when they haven't changed it. And it can feel really uncomfortable to raise prices. Like, I know even, I mean, we're experiencing that in, like, the Conscious Kitchen. Like, it's never fun when you feel like you have to raise a price. And so some tactics around there, oftentimes, like, if that's the case, there's maybe a handful of customers that you might know, they're going to be the ones that are going to be really upset, or like, I've known these customers for forever and I would feel uncomfortable changing the price for them. And so something like a loyalty price, where you can keep it the price the same for those 5, really amazing customers that you've had since day one, but then raise the price for everyone else, right? Like, things like that. Sliding scale can also work sometimes, I'd say, if you feel there are some people that you still want to serve that you're going to feel are being left behind if you raise your prices. Maybe there's some sliding scale model. And then obviously just clear communication and sharing with people why you need to raise the price. Too many people are just saying inflation, which is kind of frustrating. So something a bit, I don't know, I guess you can blame it on inflation, but maybe something else just about how, you haven't raised the prices in this amount of time, and, etc. So just sharing kind of that angle as well. Okay, so margins. I know, Kayla, so you mentioned you're curious about figuring out the cost of goods sold for per product. I don't know if you can, I'm not sure if you can see the screen. I can share it with Angie to share with you. I actually have, like, an Excel template that can help you actually calculate your cost of goods sold per product. And I mean, basically, it's like, you kind of make your ingredient list, right? Like, your ingredient list, how much you buy, buy all of your ingredients for. There's a little bit of unit calculations to try to figure out, like, per batch, or if you want it, like, I think per batch is helpful, or if you want to get to, like, per cupcake, right, how much it actually costs. So there's a little bit of math. The Excel spreadsheet helps a little bit, but if you, like, really hate math, you can feel free to reach out to me. I can help with some of those calculations. But yeah, I can share the spreadsheet because
that would be wonderful. I was gonna say, I also have a spreadsheet somewhere that is very similar. But Simone, I'd love for you to share that. We can share this to anybody. Just send me an email if you're interested in it, especially if you're watching this on stream, because then I know I'm not just sending it to everybody. I'll just send it to the people who actually want it. As well as, honestly, I love spreadsheets and calculations. We have seen so many companies who realize their pricing is way below, like, oh, I'm actually spending $10 an item and I'm trying to sell it for $8. No wonder I'm losing money. So we want to make sure that you're not doing that. You can also talk to any of our business advisors. They can help you walk through that. So if you haven't already had a business advisor appointment, they're free, and we can help you walk through that too.
That's great.
Lots of options.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of what you talked about, Agatha, where, food industry does have very tight margins, and it does kind of vary within that. So again, based on kind of some of the companies I've worked with, some of like the trends that are I've seen or kind of somewhat known in the industry, like typical product margin. So again, to define margin, and I'm defining, so let's say gross margin is after everything that goes in like to this specific cupcake. So this one cupcake that I can hold in my hand. So the ingredients that go into this cupcake and the packaging, and I don't know, maybe there's labels or like everything that's directly in that one, the product that you're selling, what's left over, it's kind of your gross margin. So, and then everything else is like your overhead. And then that kind of leads to your profit margin. So, typical product margins. This means, so for like typical CPG, so things that like packaged goods you can find on store shelves, it means like just their ingredient, just everything that goes into it is they're left with 50% of kind of from that selling price. And so that could be like a wholesale price. So if they sell, something for $5, they have put $2.50 directly into like ingredients and packaging, and they're only left with $2.50. So even if they've sold it for $5, they're really left with $2.50 to cover all of their other like overhead costs, that kind of thing. So grocery stores, this is where if packaged companies are interested in selling to grocery stores, they're often wondering, what is the grocery store expecting? And so often the grocery store is expecting between 30 to 50%, depending on, I think it's different for their different like departments, as in cheese might have different targets to like bakery kind of thing, but they're also looking for like a 30 to 50% margin. So if they're selling, and that's different than markup, but that's a whole, so if they on the grocery shelf are selling something for, let's say, $10, they're expecting to keep, let's say, between $7, like not pay you kind of less than like $5 to $7 for it. So, you as like the package company might also only be able to charge the grocery store, $5 to $7 when the retail price is 10. So anyways, and then restaurants are a bit higher, I'd say, or anything like the greater the value add in food, typically the higher the margin. So a restaurant might be between 50 or 70. Like prepared meals are kind of around, that similar range. Again, there's kind of fewer steps in the chain, so you're able to like command a higher price. So I'd say, like the more people in your supply chain, if you sell to a company that delivers and they sell to the retailer and they sell to the whatever, like that's going to really obviously affect your margin. So that's why we choose to do like a direct to consumer, even though there's certain costs associated with that. We can kind of like keep as much for ourselves basically, and cover our costs. I guess I'm not sure. I know there's some like bakery. I don't know exactly the typical product margin, but if you're operating a bakery, I would think it'd be similar to a restaurant. But I guess I don't have that specific number. And then a good profit margin typically is around 10%, and that's including like after again, this depends, 5 to 10% is probably good, right? So even after you're paying yourself, what do you have at the end of the year to like reinvest? Kind of a good somewhat benchmark to keep in mind. But this is all very subjective, but still sometimes helpful to get a bit of a sense. Any questions? Like I know, those kind of pricing margins were some of the main questions. Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
Just so you know, I did put an article on costing and a video that we utilize in one of our other programs on markups versus margin, because it's an error we see a lot of people do regularly. Is they'll do the markups instead of the margins. And then if anybody needs, we do in our stepping, which are their 6 weeks program, a whole week on financials where we provide you with a whole bunch of templates on how to figure out your markups, your margins, and your general costing and forecasting and you name it. So if anybody is interested in that, we do have November sessions are open for registration still for that too.
Nice.
So
yeah, I saw Agatha, did your hand raise and then okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the forecasting and the models, but Angela answered my question.
not a problem. Send me an email if you want. I have most of that into spreadsheets. I can give you a rundown and provide you with some of those resources afterwards. So,
super, thank you.
no worries.
Okay, so we have, I say, only about 8 minutes left. So I'll give high levels on some of the other sections, and then I will say again, yeah, my email, I'm sure the slides will go out. My email will be on there. So yeah, you can email me. We can, again, set up a call, set up a meeting, but, and also obviously the Business Center has lots of resources too. So feel free to reach out to either of us. So yeah, purchasing and return on investment. I think a big question I think a lot of business owners have is around the return on like marketing and advertising in particular. It's often like, you know, marketing and advertising spend seems like this line item that you don't really know, like, was it worth it, right? Like I just spent $500 printing out brochures, like, was it worth it kind of question. I think that's often, yeah, the biggest one where ROI is maybe not really considered, or it is, but like you want to, but it's difficult to. So I would say, like, yeah, as much as possible, if you're doing marketing or advertising, think about how you're able to figure out whether there is a good return. And I would say you're going to, especially early days, you're probably going to want to try a lot of different things and see what works. But I'd say really focusing on, like, what did this work? Was there a return? Because you should be able to calculate that. So I'll kind of give you an example. But yeah, if you say, okay, like I remember early days of Conscious Kitchen, you know, we spent $200 printing out these little brochures. I spent a full day and like lots of ankle pain going door to door, putting the brochures in like in people's mailboxes. What we did, and what a lot of companies do, why there's often coupon codes on it, if you say, you know, on your first order you get 10% off, is because like you can track how many people enter in that coupon code to see, okay, how many customers actually did something because of this brochure. And I'm pretty sure for that attempt, I don't think we got one customer through it. But we never did that again. So, you know, yeah, there was a bit of a cost. Yeah, it was annoying, but because that coupon code, and, you know, we were able to say, okay, let's never do that again. Let's never print it, like that. It's just not a waste of money. Something we figured out worked really well was actually paid Instagram ads. And I would say that this does work very well for like food companies. So, you know, you have your Instagram page and you can sponsor certain posts. So we can, so we've noticed that in the weeks that we like put $100 into a targeted ad, and you can target, you know, Guelph, you can target people like by gender, yeah, by area, maybe like what pages they follow. You know, we notice there's an uptick in customers, and you know, based compared to weeks we don't. And so typically, you know, we see, and we're able to like now know if we put it, like run a $100 Instagram ad, we're basically gonna get 5 new customers, and they're spending on average like $70 each. So already we're kind of getting that return. So I'd say, yeah, try different, like a number of different things, focus on, yeah, return, and hopefully you'll find something that works and that you can kind of keep doing. And, you know, like in other terms on purchasing, obviously, you know, you want to be reviewing your revenue and expenses each month. That's pretty obvious. And another thing maybe just to note is that sometimes it might feel hard to spend a little bit of money. Let's say, I know people hate like credit card fees. It feels like, like I could really, you know, I don't want, you know, people are doing e-transfers, right? Because like $2, you know, 2.5% from like an e-commerce platform sounds like a lot of money, but maybe run those numbers and think about what your time is worth, and then say, you know, would I rather just have that money in my bank account, you know, minus that 2.5% sooner, or would I rather follow up with emails and chase people for that, you know, for that full amount? So I think often, yeah, sometimes it sucks to like see, you know, money go, but just thinking about and valuing your time, I'd say is really important too. Okay. Then yeah, I guess we talked on cash flow. So the templates are really helpful. I wish we, I guess, had more time. Yeah, I guess I'll leave this in the slides. And again, feeling like this wasn't brought up in particular by anyone, you can reach out to myself or Guelph Business Center if you need or want any extra support. There's cash flow. There's some resources here on this slide about specific loans. Innovation Guelph right now, they're having a grant, and again, with a bunch of other nonprofits in the area, there's a grant program that's deadline is in 2 weeks. So maybe check out Innovation Guelph and the COIL Activate grant program there. But yeah, again, in your first few years, unfortunately, it can be hard to access loans and even some grants. So it's a little frustrating, but you often have to kind of, yeah, get through that. And then bookkeeping basics. So I would say, yeah, I do want to touch on this briefly. So bookkeeping basics. In your first year, I would say you don't need, again, like anything too fancy. So you're probably like, I'm assuming, let's say it's a sole proprietorship, right? So any income you're making, like any profit from the business is treated as your personal income, right? So you're just paying personal income taxes. You're not paying any separate like corporate taxes, right? So to do that, to figure out your profit, you want to know, okay, what was my revenue? What were my expenses? The difference between that is kind of like basically your personal income, if there is any. So I'd say to start out in your first year, you can probably do this in an Excel, depending, right? But you can probably do this in an Excel, keeping track of what you've, you know, earned, paid out. I would say, again, maybe in your first year, maybe in your second year, getting a separate personal and business bank account is really, really helpful. Again, that will just help it make it easier to say, okay, how much did I spend on ingredients? And you just have to look at your business bank, bank account. You don't have to, go through all your personal bank statements. So that's really helpful, kind of as soon as you can. I would say to separate that out. And then also using a sales platform to track all sales. So even if you are maybe accepting e-transfers, still tracking it in something like Square, Shopify, offering the option for people to buy online. I'd say people are used to that. They're used to clicking a few buttons. Some people really do like that. So giving that an option for them, and it helps you track sales. So even if they are e-transferring you still want to track that, input that into Square, so they could even get a receipt. You just have that tracked. It makes it so much easier at the end of the year. And then at the same time, of course, just keeping all receipts, it's just now good practice. Technically, this is for like an audit if CRA ever decides to audit you. Again, not very likely, but it is good practice. Like keep your physical receipts and your digital receipts, things emailed. Again, they could be kept in your email. Even better, I guess, is to download and save it in like a Google Drive or something, but somewhere that if someone asked, okay, what was this $200 from Costco for, you could kind of prove it. That's the idea.
There's a quick question from Hema. Would you have an easy software that's easy to use beside Excel for running reports, do bank reconciliation, sales, etc.? Thank you. There's lots of online ones. I know I've used QuickBooks a bunch of times, QuickBooks Online, but Simona, if you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I go with QuickBooks Online, but yeah, there are others. So I'd say, yeah, people really like QuickBooks Online. There's Xero, there's Wave. I think they're all quite similar, but yeah, the one I'm most comfortable with and use is QuickBooks Online.
Perfect. Yeah, and Agata says that she's used QuickBooks, but finds it relatively easy. Yeah, the online version is pretty user friendly. If you run into problems, I've used it. Simona, we can definitely connect with you to help you navigate it, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. Yes,
No
I'm
worries. They
struggling
do.
with that. Yes.
But
No worries.
sometimes keeping it simple at first is even better. Like again, like an Excel spreadsheet might do what you need it to do. If you don't have that many like assets, if you're not having, that many purchases, because what's nice about QuickBooks, you can connect your bank feed and it kind of pulls it in. So you're not having to manually type out, $100.97 for that. Like it pulls it. I think that's a nice thing. But if there's not, I'd say over, I don't know, 20, I don't know, like if it's under 20 expenses a month kind of thing, you might not need something like QuickBooks. You could just keep track of, again, revenue expenses for kind of your personal tax time. So it's up to you.
Totally.
Sometimes the software just kind of muddles it. I don't know, right?
I was gonna say my mom still uses old school notes and ledgers and prints things off and staples them to a receipt book each week and each month, and she's been doing that for 40 years now. And although she does add it all into web pages for accountants, and she's done that, I know quite a few people and quite a few small businesses who are just not the computer comfortable enough and will do it still in paper mode, and that is okay too, as long as you have all the things there. So if you take one of our CRA workshops, they'll tell you straight out that as long as you keep the receipts in the format that you get them, you can add them into other formats, but you just have to keep all your things slightly organized and all noted. You'll be good.
Yep, totally. Yeah. I mean, once you have payroll, maybe once you have there's certain like reports need like, yeah, then it might make sense. So I know we're a little bit over time, so I'll just say for the CRA, I think the real message I want to send here is actually they're super helpful. It's like they're a good resource if you have questions. Yeah, like I mean, they're doing this webinar. I love their customer support. Like I will call CRA and just ask them questions about things like, do I need to charge tax on this particular product, or again, just if you're having confusion, like when are my personal taxes due? Like I would say use their customer support. They're really friendly like ahead of time. If you're like behind on payments, they're less friendly. So use them proactively, and they really want to help you pay the money, right?
Yeah,
and do it correctly, right?
If you take the CRA workshop, we do offer both incorporated and a small business, sole proprietor and partnership. They're two separate workshops. They're pretty long. They're 2 hours, but sometimes we've had known to go 2.5 to 3 because they will answer every question that comes up. But the CRA liaison officer services, so they are not connected with audit. So they are just a service that the CRA has implemented that will answer any of your questions at any time. And they are a wonderful group of people. So they always tell us, they're like, we're not the US movies.
Yeah.
So we're not there. We're not going to arrest you and pull you off. As long as everything is reasonable, we're willing to talk with you about it. So as long as you're reasonable and how you think is reasonable, they're willing to discuss. But if you have any questions, I put the link in the chat of the CRA liaison officer. You can do it through a quick Google search. They used to be willing to go right to your house and sit with you and go through your books. I'm not sure if they still do that with COVID, but they do it virtually and by phone. So they can definitely connect with you. They're totally worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then lastly, again, like I'll just end off saving for taxes. I guess, I mean, we have a lot of time before personal tax time. So just thinking again about what you'll need to set aside. And again, like your business profit is technically would be considered personal income, and then you'd be taxed on that. So thinking about and putting aside perhaps some of that. And then if you charge HST, right, GST, also it's helpful just to kind of keep track of that month over month, just to make sure you have kind of set that aside, because you'll need to pay that probably at the end of the year typically. So that's in review. So with that, yeah, this is my email and website there on the screen. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I know we went over a little, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is say bye to the people on the social platforms. But I don't mind, for those of you who are in the room, if you want to stick around for a few minutes, and if Simone has a few extra minutes to hang out with us for a little bit, that is quite all right by me. So Simone, thank you so much. Lots of information. Honestly, I think it's always great when we can provide this kind of information. It works in every industry. I know we're focused mostly on food business here, but no matter what kind of industry, these are things you're going to have to consider. So thank you. Thank you for everybody who attended and participated, and thank you to everybody watching after the fact. Connect with me, connect with Simone if you have any questions. So the Business Center is success@guelphbusiness.com, and I can connect you with Simone if you don't know how to. That's not a problem at all. So we'll see you Tuesday. We have lots and lots of workshops on Tuesday. We have 3 different sessions on Tuesday. So we have one on how to think about your business. So it's focused on wording and stuff like that. One on resources for female-led businesses, and also one on productizing and how to get your business online, and how to make it successful and not boring. So it's all about getting that fun back into online shopping. So hopefully we'll see you next week for one of those sessions. And I will throw Simone's email into the chat as well. So have a great day to all you who are watching live. Thank you.